The Philippines, an archipelago nation bathed in the emerald waters of Southeast Asia. More than 7,000 islands, each a story waiting to be told. This is a nation forged by the tides of history, shaped by waves of conquest, colonialism, and ultimately liberation. The Philippines, despite its relatively small size, has played a pivotal role in the grand narrative of Asia. From ancient trading posts to colonial outposts, the islands have always been a crossroads of cultures. Malay, Chinese, Spanish, American, each left their mark, their influences woven into the fabric of Filipino identity. This is a story of resilience, of a people who have risen from the ashes of adversity time and again. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of the Filipino people.
Long before the arrival of European powers, the Philippines thrived. A vibrant tapestry of indigenous cultures flourished across the archipelago. Trade networks crisscrossed the region. These early Filipinos, skilled seafarers and merchants, connected with civilizations as far as China and India. The islands pulsed with a unique energy, a melting pot of traditions, languages, and beliefs. These were not isolated tribes, but sophisticated societies. They had their own systems of governance, their own art forms, their own cosmologies. Evidence of this rich past can be found in archaeological sites scattered across the islands. From the majestic rice terraces of Banaue to the ancient burial jars of Palawan. These remnants whisper tales of a time before the arrival of the West.
The arrival of Ferdinand Magellan in 1521 marked a turning point. It ushered in an era of Spanish colonization that would last for over 3 centuries. This period witnessed the fusion of indigenous traditions with Hispanic culture. Catholicism took root, shaping the religious landscape of the nation. The Spanish language, blended with native dialects, gave birth to a new linguistic tapestry. The echoes of this colonial past reverberate to this day. In the architecture of centuries-old churches, in the vibrant festivals that fill the streets with music and color, in the warmth and hospitality that is quintessentially Filipino. To understand the Philippines, one must delve into this complex interplay of influences, tracing the threads that connect the past to the present.
At the heart of pre-colonial Philippine society lay the barangay, a small, self-governing unit. Led by a datu, these barangays formed the bedrock of social and political organization. Each barangay had its own laws, customs, and traditions. A clearly defined social hierarchy existed within the barangay. At the apex stood the datu and his family. The strategic location of the Philippines, nestled at the crossroads of major maritime trade routes, ensured that the archipelago was never truly isolated. Early Filipinos, skilled navigators and boat builders embarked on extensive trading voyages across Southeast Asia, establishing vital links with neighboring empires. Chinese junks laden with silk, porcelain, and spices sailed into Philippine ports, while Indian merchants brought with them Hinduism, Buddhism, and a vibrant tradition of storytelling and literature. These interactions with foreign cultures left an indelible mark on Philippine society. The adoption of foreign goods and technologies, from Chinese porcelain to Indian weaving techniques, enriched local traditions and fueled economic growth. Religious ideas from India and China intermingled with indigenous beliefs, resulting in a syncretic blend of spiritual practices. The influx of foreign traders and settlers brought with them new languages, customs, and artistic motifs, further diversifying the cultural landscape of the archipelago.
In 1989, a discovery on the banks of the Lumbang River in Laguna province sent shockwaves through the world of Philippine history. The Laguna Copperplate inscription, a thin sheet of copper etched with ancient script, provided irrefutable evidence of a sophisticated writing system in use in the Philippines as early as the 10th century. Dated to 900 AD, the inscription predates the arrival of the Spanish by centuries, challenging long-held assumptions about the literacy and cultural development of pre-colonial Philippine societies. The inscription, deciphered by experts as a blend of Old Malay, Old Javanese, and Sanskrit, records a proclamation of debt forgiveness by a local ruler. This single artifact revolutionized our understanding of ancient Philippine history, demonstrating that early Filipinos possessed a written language, engaged in complex legal transactions, and maintained relationships with neighboring kingdoms. The Laguna Copperplate inscription stands as a testament to the ingenuity and cultural sophistication of pre-colonial Philippine civilization, offering a tantalizing glimpse into a past long shrouded in mystery. Section 5. The Butuan boats, navigating ancient seas. Further evidence of the seafaring prowess of ancient Filipinos lies in the discovery of the Butuan boats, a series of wooden watercraft unearthed from a riverbed in Butuan City, Mindanao. These boats, dating back to the 4th century AD, represent some of the earliest known examples of sophisticated shipbuilding technology in Southeast Asia. Crafted from planks sewn together with intricate lashing techniques and sealed with resin, the Butuan boats were capable of navigating the open ocean, facilitating trade and cultural exchange across vast distances. The largest of the Butuan boats, measuring over 15 meters in length, could carry significant cargo and a large crew, suggesting that early Filipinos were engaged in long-distance trade voyages centuries before the arrival of European powers. These vessels, a testament to the ingenuity and maritime skills of ancient Filipinos, played a pivotal role in shaping the cultural and economic landscape of the archipelago, connecting the islands to a wider network of trade and cultural exchange across Southeast Asia.
The Legend of the 10 Datus. A tale of migration. Oral traditions offer a window into the pre-colonial past of the Philippines. The story recounts 10 Bornean datus fleeing a tyrannical ruler. They landed on Panay, negotiating a peaceful purchase from the Ayeta people. This legend reflects the migration waves shaping the Philippines' diversity. Section 7. Weaving Beliefs. Animism and early spiritual practices. Before the arrival of organized religions from abroad, early Filipinos practiced a form of animism, a belief system that recognized the spiritual essence of all things: animals, plants, rocks, and even natural phenomena. They believed in a pantheon of deities, each associated with specific aspects of nature and human life. Bathala, the supreme deity, ruled over the heavens, while spirits known as Diwata inhabited the natural world, influencing the fortunes of humans. Rituals and offerings played a central role in early Filipino spirituality. Shamans, known as Babaylan, acted as intermediaries between the human and spirit worlds, presiding over ceremonies, healing the sick, and invoking the favor of the deities. Ancestral spirits were revered and consulted for guidance, and offerings were made to appease them and ensure their continued protection. This deep connection to the spiritual realm permeated all aspects of life, influencing social customs, agricultural practices, and artistic expressions.
Section 8. Artistic expressions, echoes of ancestral creativity. The artistic traditions of pre-colonial Philippines, often intertwined with religious beliefs and social customs, provide a glimpse into the aesthetic sensibilities and cultural values of early Filipinos. From the intricate weaving patterns of textiles to the stylized designs of pottery and jewelry, these artifacts reveal a deep appreciation for beauty, craftsmanship, and symbolism. Each object, carefully crafted by hand, served not merely a practical purpose but also embodied cultural meaning and spiritual significance. The Manunggul jar, a burial jar discovered in a cave in Palawan, stands as a masterpiece of pre-colonial Filipino art. The lid of the jar features two figures riding a boat, their hands clasped in a gesture of farewell, believed to represent the journey of the soul to the afterlife. This iconic artifact, dating back to the 8th century BC, highlights the skill of early Filipino artists and their sophisticated understanding of symbolism and the afterlife. It serves as a poignant reminder of the rich cultural heritage that predates the arrival of Western influences.
Section 9. Awaiting the Arrival. Life on the Eve of Colonialism. On the eve of Spanish arrival, the Philippine archipelago pulsated with a vibrant tapestry of cultures, each with its own unique traditions, languages, and artistic expressions. The barangays, scattered across the islands, thrived on a combination of agriculture, fishing, and trade. Their societies governed by a blend of customary law and the authority of the datus. Religious beliefs, rooted in animism and ancestor worship, permeated all aspects of life, influencing social customs, agricultural practices, and artistic expressions. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic existence, simmered tensions and rivalries between neighboring barangays. Competition for resources, territorial disputes, and the ambitions of powerful datus occasionally erupted into conflict, disrupting the delicate balance of power. Unbeknownst to the inhabitants of these islands, a new force was about to arrive from across the vast Pacific, one that would forever alter the course of Philippine history.
Section 10. The Legacy of the Ancients' Foundations of a Nation. The arrival of Ferdinand Magellan in 1521 marked Spanish colonization and transformation of Filipino society. Yet the rich tapestry of cultures and traditions persisted, shaping Filipino identity. Resilience, family, and community ties echo the pre-colonial past. The barangay system still influences local governance. Animistic beliefs blend with Catholicism in folk practices. Ancient artistic traditions inspire contemporary Filipino artists.
Following Magellan's expedition, Spanish expeditions arrived, determined to establish a foothold in the islands. In 1565, Miguel López de Legazpi established the first permanent Spanish settlement in Cebu. Central to the Spanish colonial project was the propagation of Christianity. Spanish friars embarked on a campaign to convert the indigenous population. They established missions, built churches, and learned local languages.
The Spanish colonial administration, seeking to consolidate its control and facilitate governance, embarked on a systematic restructuring of Filipino society. The traditional barangay system, with its decentralized power structure and customary laws, was gradually dismantled and replaced with a more centralized system based on Spanish models. Villages were consolidated into larger units known as pueblos, each headed by a gobernadorcillo, usually a local elite appointed by Spanish authorities. This restructuring of Filipino society had profound implications for social relations and power dynamics. The traditional authority of datus was undermined as they were co-opted into the colonial administration or sidelined altogether. The Spanish introduced a system of tribute and forced labor, exploiting the indigenous population for the economic benefit of the colony. Land, once communally owned, was gradually privatized, leading to the emergence of a landed elite and a growing disparity between the haves and have-nots. Despite the often brutal realities of Spanish colonial rule, a new class of Filipinos, educated in Spanish institutions and exposed to Enlightenment ideas, began to emerge. These ilustrados, as they were known, came from affluent families who could afford to send their sons to universities in Manila and sometimes even to Spain. Immersed in Western learning, they absorbed the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity, ideas that stood in stark contrast to the oppressive realities of colonial rule in their homeland. The ilustrados, while enjoying certain privileges within the colonial system, grew increasingly disillusioned with the inequalities and injustices they witnessed. They chafed under the racism and discrimination that relegated them to second-class status in their own land. They yearned for a more just and equitable society, one in which Filipinos had a voice in their own governance. Through their writings, speeches, and clandestine organizations, the Ilustrados sowed the seeds of dissent that would eventually blossom into a full-fledged movement for independence. In 1807, the northern region of Luzon erupted in revolt, fueled by an unlikely catalyst sugarcane wine known as basi. The Spanish colonial government, seeking to increase revenue, had imposed a monopoly on the production and sale of basi, a beloved beverage and an integral part of local customs and celebrations. This measure, which deprived countless Filipinos of their livelihood and their traditional way of life, sparked outrage and resistance, culminating in the Basi Revolt. The Basi Revolt, though ultimately unsuccessful in overthrowing Spanish rule, highlighted the deep resentment brewing among ordinary Filipinos against colonial policies that disrupted their lives and undermined their traditions. It demonstrated that even seemingly minor grievances, when they struck at the heart of people's livelihoods and cultural practices, could ignite widespread rebellion.
Amidst the turmoil and upheaval of the 18th century, one name stands out as a testament to the courage and determination of Filipino women: Gabriela Silang. Born Maria Josefa Gabriela Carino de Silang, she was the wife of Diego Silang, a rebel leader who led a revolt against Spanish rule in the Ilocos region. Upon her husband's assassination in 1763, Gabriela assumed command of his forces, becoming a symbol of defiance and a beacon of hope for those yearning for freedom. Gabriela Silang, despite facing overwhelming odds and the deeply ingrained sexism of her time, rallied her people and led them into battle against the Spanish colonial army. She became known for her strategic brilliance, her unwavering courage, and her commitment to social justice, advocating for the rights of the poor and marginalized. Though captured and executed by the Spanish in 1763, Gabriela Silang's legacy as a fierce warrior, a skilled leader, and a champion of freedom continue to inspire generations of Filipinos struggling for independence.
By the late 19th century, a new generation of Filipino intellectuals, influenced by Enlightenment ideals and fueled by a growing sense of nationalism, emerged on the scene. These Ilustrados, recognizing the power of the pen, embarked on a campaign for reform through writing and propaganda. They established newspapers and journals in Spain, using these platforms to expose the injustices of colonial rule, advocate for greater autonomy, and cultivate a sense of Filipino identity among their compatriots. Among these Ilustrados, one name shone brightest: José Rizal. A brilliant writer, doctor, and polyglot, Rizal penned two novels, No Limay Tangere and El Filibusterismo, which exposed the abuses of the Spanish friars, the corruption of colonial officials, and the plight of the Filipino people under Spanish rule. His writings, widely read and discussed, ignited the imaginations of his countrymen, awakening in them a sense of national consciousness and fueling the growing movement for reform.
The propaganda movement, while raising awareness and garnering support for the Filipino cause in Spain, ultimately failed to achieve its goals of achieving meaningful reforms within the existing colonial framework. Frustrated by the intransigence of the Spanish authorities and the futility of peaceful appeals for change, some Filipinos began to advocate for a more radical, path-armed revolution. In 1896, a clandestine organization known as the Katipunan, founded by Andres Bonifacio, emerged as a powerful force for revolutionary change. The Katipunan, drawing its members from the lower and middle classes, advocated for complete independence from Spain. On August 23, 1896, in a place called Pugad Lawin, Bonifacio and his followers gathered in a moment that would forever be etched in Philippine history. In a collective act of defiance, they tore their cedulas, the residence certificates that symbolized their subjugation to Spanish rule, and declared their intention to fight for freedom. This event, known as the Cry of Pugad Lawin, marked the beginning of the Philippine Revolution.
The Spanish colonial period, spanning over 3 centuries, left an indelible mark on the Philippines, shaping its culture, its institutions, and the very identity of its people. The introduction of Christianity, the imposition of Spanish political and social structures, and the emergence of a new elite class all contributed to a profound transformation of Filipino society. Yet Spanish colonialism also sowed the seeds of its own demise. The injustices and inequalities inherent in the colonial system, the suppression of Filipino aspirations for freedom and self-determination, and the brutal response to any form of dissent fueled a growing sense of resentment and resistance. By the late 19th century, the desire for independence had taken root, nurtured by the writings of the Ilustrados, the sacrifices of countless rebels, and the unwavering spirit of a people determined to forge their own destiny.
As the 19th century drew to a close, the Philippine archipelago, weary from centuries of Spanish rule, found itself on the cusp of a new era. A new power emerged on the horizon: the United States of America. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1898, ended the Spanish-American War and sealed the fate of the Philippines. Spain ceded the archipelago to the United States, transferring control of the islands and its people to a new colonial master.
The Americans, eager to distinguish themselves from their Spanish predecessors, embarked on a policy of benevolent assimilation. This paternalistic approach, articulated by leading figures such as President William McKinley, aimed to uplift and civilize the Filipinos, preparing them for eventual self-governance. Education, economic development, and the introduction of American-style democracy formed the cornerstones of this policy, a stark contrast to the often brutal and exploitative nature of Spanish colonial rule. However, beneath the veneer of benevolence lay a complex reality. The Americans, despite their pronouncements of altruism, were not immune to the allure of empire and the economic opportunities presented by their newfound colony. American corporations eager to exploit the Philippines' natural resources gained a foothold in the islands, while Filipino industries struggled to compete. Political power remained largely concentrated in the hands of American officials, and any dissent or resistance to American rule was met with swift and often brutal suppression.
Section 3. The Grip of Education: Shaping Young Minds. Recognizing the transformative power of education, the Americans made it a central pillar of their colonial project. American teachers, often young and idealistic, fanned out across the archipelago, establishing schools in even the most remote villages. English, the language of the colonizer, became the medium of instruction, replacing Spanish in classrooms and shaping the linguistic landscape of the Philippines for generations to come. The American education system, while undoubtedly expanding access to education for many Filipinos, also served as a powerful tool of cultural assimilation. American textbooks, often imbued with American values and perspectives, shaped the worldview of Filipino students. History lessons often glossed over the brutalities of American conquest, while literature classes celebrated American authors and ideals.
Section 4. From nipa huts to Art Deco, architectural echoes of a transition. The American colonial period witnessed a dramatic transformation of the Philippine urban landscape. American architects and urban planners, armed with new ideas about sanitation, efficiency, and modernity, redesigned cities like Manila, introducing grid patterns, wide boulevards, and imposing government buildings. The architectural styles of the American period, from neoclassical grandeur to the sleek lines of Art Deco, stood in stark contrast to the Spanish colonial aesthetic, reflecting the changing times and the new power dynamics at play. The rise of American-style commercial districts, complete with department stores, movie theaters, and jazz clubs, further altered the social fabric of cities. These spaces, often catering to the tastes of American expatriates and affluent Filipinos, became symbols of modernity and progress, even as they exacerbated existing social divisions. Meanwhile, in the countryside, traditional nipa huts continued to dot the landscape, a reminder of this resilience of Filipino ways of life, even amidst the onslaught of American cultural influence.
The outbreak of World War II in 1939 cast a long shadow over the Philippines, drawing the islands into a global conflict that would test the limits of Filipino resilience and forever alter the course of its history. The Philippines, a strategic outpost in the Pacific, found itself caught in the crosshairs of Japanese imperial ambitions. Its fate intertwined with the larger struggle between the Allied and Axis powers. Despite its own aspirations for independence and the challenges of colonial rule, the Philippines, bound by its ties to the United States, found itself thrust into the maelstrom of war. Filipino soldiers, fighting alongside American forces, would demonstrate extraordinary courage and sacrifice, defending the islands against overwhelming odds.
The Japanese invasion of the Philippines, launched in December 1941, just hours after the attack on Pearl Harbor, marked the beginning of a brutal and tumultuous period in Philippine history. Japanese forces, equipped with superior firepower and driven by a sense of imperial destiny, swept through the archipelago, overwhelming American and Filipino defenses. The Battle of Bataan, a testament to the courage and tenacity of Filipino and American soldiers, ended in April 1942 with a heartbreaking surrender. The subsequent Bataan Death March, a forced march of tens of thousands of prisoners of war, became a symbol of Japanese brutality and a dark chapter in the annals of war. The fall of Corregidor, a fortified island in Manila Bay, marked the end of organized resistance to the Japanese, ushering in a period of occupation that would test the limits of Filipino resilience. Despite the horrors of Japanese occupation, the widespread hunger, the brutality of the Kempeitai, and the systematic attempts to erase Filipino culture and identity, the spirit of resistance never truly died. Across the islands, ordinary Filipinos, fueled by their love of country and their yearning for freedom, took up arms and waged a guerrilla war against the occupiers. These guerrillas, operating in the shadows, disrupted Japanese supply lines, gathered intelligence, and provided hope to a people yearning for liberation. They came from all walks of life: farmers, teachers, students, even former politicians, united by their determination to free their homeland from the grip of tyranny. Their stories, often passed down through generations, serve as a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Filipino people and their unwavering commitment to freedom. As World War II drew to a close, the Philippines, ravaged by years of conflict and occupation, yearned for a fresh start. The United States, recognizing the sacrifices made by Filipinos in the war effort and facing pressure from the international community, finally granted the Philippines its long-awaited independence on July 4, 1946. The Philippine Republic, rising from the ashes of war, faced the daunting task of rebuilding a nation shattered by conflict. The road ahead was fraught with challenges. The war had left the country's infrastructure in ruins, its economy in shambles, and its people deeply scarred by the horrors they had witnessed. The new republic grappled with issues of corruption, poverty, and social inequality, legacies of centuries of colonial rule. Yet, amidst these challenges, there was also a palpable sense of hope and optimism. The Philippines, finally master of its own destiny, was determined to forge a brighter future for its people.
The dawn of independence brought a mix of jubilation and trepidation. Filipinos, finally free from the shackles of colonialism, faced the daunting task of rebuilding their nation from the ashes of war. The First Republic, led by President Manuel Roxas, inherited a country grappling with widespread poverty, a devastated infrastructure, and the lingering scars of conflict. The challenges were immense, but so was the spirit of a people determined to forge their own destiny. The Roxas administration, facing pressure from both within and outside the Philippines, grappled with the complex legacy of American colonialism. The Bell Trade Act, a controversial agreement that granted American businesses preferential treatment in the Philippine economy, sparked debate about economic independence and national sovereignty. The issue of agrarian reform, aimed at addressing the deep-seated inequalities in land ownership, emerged as a pressing concern as peasant farmers, many of whom had fought valiantly against the Japanese, demanded a fairer share of the land they tilled. The Hukbalahap, a guerrilla movement that had fiercely resisted the Japanese occupation, emerged as a potent force in the post-war Philippines. Initially hailed as heroes for their wartime exploits, the Huks, composed primarily of peasant farmers, soon grew disillusioned with the government's failure to address their grievances over land reform and social justice. The Hukbalahap rebellion, which raged throughout the late 1940s and early 1950s, exposed the deep fissures in Philippine society, highlighting the plight of the rural poor and the government's struggle to address their concerns. The rebellion, though ultimately quelled through a combination of military force and social reforms, served as a stark reminder of the importance of addressing the root causes of poverty and inequality.
The election of Ramon Magsaysay as president in 1953 ushered in a brief but transformative period in Philippine history. Magsaysay, a charismatic leader known for his humility and his genuine concern for the plight of the common man, embodied the hopes and aspirations of a nation yearning for progress and social justice. Magsaysay's presidency was marked by a focus on rural development, land reform, and combating corruption. He implemented programs aimed at improving agricultural productivity, providing land to landless farmers, and rooting out graft and inefficiency in government. His efforts, though cut short by his tragic death in a plane crash in 1957, left an enduring legacy, inspiring a generation of Filipinos with his vision of a more just and equitable society. Section 4. Marcos and Martial Law. A Descent into Darkness. The Philippines, having experienced the highs of the Magsaysay era, entered a turbulent period with the election of Ferdinand Marcos as president in 1965. Marcos, a shrewd politician known for his intelligence and ambition, initially promised to usher in a new society marked by progress and prosperity. However, his rule would take a dark turn, culminating in the declaration of martial law in 1972, an event that would cast a long shadow over the Philippines for decades to come. Marcos, citing threats from communist insurgents and a need to restore order, used martial law to consolidate his power, silence dissent, and rule with an iron fist. He shut down Congress, muzzled the press, and imprisoned political opponents, ushering in an era of repression and human rights abuses. The Philippine economy, initially experiencing growth under Marcos's authoritarian rule, eventually faltered, plagued by corruption, cronyism, and the flight of capital. Section 5. People Power. A Nation Reclaims Its Voice. Despite the climate of fear under Marcos's martial law, the spirit of resistance never died. Student activists, labor unions, religious groups, and ordinary Filipinos organized underground movements, published clandestine newspapers, and whispered dissent. The assassination of Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. in 1983 was a turning point. His death ignited the People Power Revolution of 1986. Millions, armed with rosaries and flowers, took to the streets, facing down tanks and troops. The world watched as Marcos fled into exile, ending his dictatorship and restoring democracy. Section 6. Navigating the post-EDSA landscape, challenges and triumphs. The People Power Revolution, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Filipino people, ushered in a new era of hope and optimism. Corazon Cory Aquino, Ninoy's widow, assumed the presidency, becoming a symbol of democracy and a beacon of hope for a nation yearning for healing and reconciliation. The post-EDSA, referring to Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, the site of the People Power protests, landscape, however, was not without its challenges. The new government, inheriting a battered economy and a deeply divided society, faced the daunting task of rebuilding institutions, restoring public trust, and addressing the root causes of poverty and inequality. Coups, attempts by Marcos loyalists, and a restive military threatened the fragile democracy. Section 7. The Philippines in the New Millennium, a nation forging its path. As the 20th century drew to a close and the new millennium dawned, the Philippines continued to navigate the complexities of democracy, development, and its place in a rapidly changing world. The country, having weathered political storms and economic crises, demonstrated resilience and a capacity for reinvention. The Philippines in the 21st century is a nation of contrasts, where gleaming skyscrapers rise amidst sprawling slums, and where ancient traditions coexist alongside modern technology. It is a country grappling with issues of poverty, corruption, and social inequality, yet it is also a nation brimming with creativity, entrepreneurial spirit, and a deep well of resilience. The Filipino people, with their unwavering faith, their infectious optimism, and their enduring commitment to family and community, continue to inspire, reminding the world that even in the face of adversity, hope endures, and the human spirit, like the resilient bamboo, bends but never breaks.
Section 1. A tapestry woven through time. The story of the Philippines is one of constant evolution, from ancient barangays to bustling Manila, a testament to human adaptation and reinvention. Woven from countless threads, indigenous ingenuity, Spanish colonialism, American influence, and a spirit to forge their destiny. Section 2. Triumph over adversity, the enduring spirit. The history of the Philippines is not without its share of darkness. From the brutalities of colonial rule to the horrors of war and dictatorship, the Filipino people have endured their fair share of suffering. Yet through it all, they have emerged time and again, their spirits unbroken, their determination unshaken. Theirs is a story of resilience, of finding hope in the face of adversity, of drawing strength from their faith, their families, and their communities. The People Power Revolution, a testament to the power of non-violent resistance, stands as a shining example of the Filipino people's indomitable spirit. Facing down tanks and troops loyal to a dictator, they showed the world the true meaning of courage, not in the roar of cannons, but in the gentle whisper of millions of voices united in their yearning for freedom. Section 3. Looking ahead, the unwritten chapters of a nation. As the Philippines charts its course in the 21st century, it faces a new set of challenges and opportunities. The forces of globalization, technological advancement, and climate change present both risks and rewards. The Philippines, with its young and dynamic population, its strategic location in Southeast Asia, and its enduring spirit of innovation, is well positioned to navigate these uncharted waters. The future of the Philippines, like its past, will be shaped by the choices its people make. The lessons learned from its long and tumultuous history, the importance of unity, the value of resilience, and the enduring power of hope, will serve as guideposts as the nation navigates the complexities of the 21st century. The story of the Philippines is far from over. In fact, it feels like the most exciting chapters are yet to be written.